and I'm going to tell you I'm going to tell you like a crazy, this is by far the craziest story that I have personally encountered in the last year. Like by far. What happened this past week, is the absolute most insane happening in my journey. I probably like it's one of the most insane ever. But we have to look at ourselves and recognize there's a couple of things that I want you to understand that are happening when you're in the accountability mirror and you're looking at yourself and your behavior. Many of us are prisoners to our past. So we will look at things that have taken place. We will look at events. We'll look at mistakes that we've made. And what we do is we replay them over and over and over and over again. And it's like a broken record. And so what happens is when you do that, you are just projecting your past over your future. It's like if you've ever seen those people when they're doing a religious walk, they'll take these whips and you'll see them and they're doing this as they're walking. They're doing this, and they're literally they're beating themselves because they believe that pain is a way of cleansing oneself of any sin. And so if you'll see it, you can pull it up on YouTube, and they're beating themselves, and they do it until they start to bleed. Um, and what happens as human beings, we have such a proclivity to negativity, and we tend to go to the lowest common denominator more often than not. We tend to move at a low vibrational level, and we allow ourselves to be infected by the rhythms of the mediocre masses. So most people are complainers. Most people are whiners. Most people want comfort. Most people look for security. Most people watch too much television. Most people live in what the television telling you your vision. They live in a world that's been created for them. So they want everything to happen magically. They believe in fairy tales. They want everything to happen instantaneously. They watch a show. Check this out. They watch a show and it's an hour-long program, and there's a beginning, middle, and end. There's a beginning journey. There's trial and tribulation, and then there is revelation, and then things get resolved, and it happens in an hour. And so what people do is they start to associate their life with what they've been watching on the idiot box, the electronic income reducer. So they believe in instant gratification. They believe that things are supposed to happen magically. They believe that things are supposed to happen instantly. And when it doesn't happen that way, they get disappointed. They move on to something else because they look for the next quick fix. They're always looking for the quick fix. So if you don't start before you even get to the accountability mirror with the recognition that you have been programmed for instant gratification, you have been programmed for quick resolution, you have been programmed for shortcutting your way through life and thinking that you're supposed to be comfortable and everything's supposed to feel good and awesome in the process. If you don't understand that, you're already setting yourself up for failure. It doesn't really matter what you want, what you aspire to, because your baseline, the thing that you fall back on, the thing that you go to for your own private consultation, it's all based in bullshit because you've been watching too much television. You've been living vicariously through social media. You've been watching people's fake book accounts. Not Facebook, it's called fake book. You look at these little snippets and these little highlights because people only want you to see what they want you to see. They're not gonna get on Facebook and show you their belly fat. They're not gonna get on there and show you the cottage cheese on the back of their leg. They're not gonna get on there and talk to you about their empty bank account. They're not gonna take screenshots of a negative bank balance. They're not going to show you their paychecks where they're overworked and underpaid and talk about, with the little kissy face and the little tiny paycheck. Like, they're not going to do that. So That's all, and people fall into this trap. And so then they set unrealistic expectations. And people don't quit things because it's hard. They quit things because they thought it was going to be easy. They thought it was going to be easy. Life doesn't work that way. There's nothing worthwhile that you're going to get that's going to come easy. I've never seen it. I've never heard of it. I don't know anything that's worth repeating, a story that's worth retelling that hasn't gone through trial and tribulation. It doesn't mean that you have to be a sadomasochist and you're looking for things to be hard and difficult, but you have to understand there's an expectation. And if you understand and know that that's a part of the process, when it comes, you're not going to be freaked out about it. You're not going to get taken out by it. You're not going to allow yourself to get off course. So before you start the conversation in the accountability mirror, you must take account of your programming. If you don't understand your programming, if you're not taking a good look at your habit patterns, then your ability to build a successful business, to build a successful life, to be a person of influence and impact, to be the leader that you were designed to be, it's never going to happen because you're living off of somebody else's program. And all of that programming, by the way, is based on consumption. It's based on you being a consumer. It's based on you falling in love with comfort. It's based on you seeking desperately security. Why do you think so many people work jobs where they're overworked and underpaid? Why do you think they do that? Because they love the security of a predictable paycheck, even if they know the paycheck sucks. That's why they do it. And then it becomes a habit. So you habituate being undervalued. You habituate being overworked and underpaid. You habituate a lower self-image, a lower self-worth, and a lower self-esteem. And people like that, they look for other people that have low self-worth, low self-image, and low self-esteem, and they all congregate together. They all make these little clubs. They have relationships and clubs and groups, and they hang out. They go to happy hour together. They have relationships. They do all these things because misery loves company. And until you're willing to acknowledge all of those habit patterns and how they have control over your mind, it doesn't matter if you're in a business. It doesn't matter if you have a great opportunity. You're not going to take it seriously. You will not show up for that business every day the same way you show up for your job. You will not show up for that business every day the same way you show up for your family. You will put it on the back burner. Maybe today you feel like doing it and you're going to go ahead and make some calls, but then tomorrow something comes up and it's going to disrupt your comfort. If you have the opportunity to do something that makes you feel good instead of doing something that's going to build you a better life, build you a better future, you're going to take the path of least resistance. Let me do what makes me feel good. I would rather watch TV. I would rather get my hair done. I would rather take a nap. I would rather do anything but sit down and make freaking calls because I'm going after my dream. It's non-negotiable. I'm going after my dream. It doesn't matter how I feel. Getting my dream is a non-negotiable. It's 100% done. I've already decided, get out of my freaking way. I don't care if I'm sleep deprived. I don't care if I have to put some other stuff off. I don't care if I have to miss the family reunion. I don't care if I have to miss date night. I am getting this done. So that's the starting point, is looking at the habit patterns and understanding how they impact your life. Because we all have fallen victim to certain behaviors that serve as an escape from some of the inevitable pain that we have to endure in this thing called life. We all have situations and things that happen. And what do? We try to figure out a way to ease the pain. It could be, again, scrolling, could be videos, could be YouTube, could be Netflix, could be emotional eating, could be napping, could be alcohol, could be weed, right? There are all these things that human beings and behaviors that they engage in to relieve stress, smoking cigarettes, vaping. And so that's a habit pattern that human beings engage in. If you want to watch and see it, check this out, any work environment that you go in, And this is in my sales teams right now. You know, the work that I do during the day. Uh, I am the only person that I have ever seen to date in the entire office that doesn't vape. Like everybody vapes because it's their coping mechanism. They got stressors. They're overweight. They're out of shape. Like it's pervasive because these are all habit patterns because these are their coping mechanisms. Go in any work environment, you'll see it. You'll see alcoholism, you'll see emotional dysfunction, emotional immaturity, you'll see arrested development, you'll see poor habit patterns. You'll see it. Like you can look at somebody physically, how they show up physically, and that will tell you a lot about their internal conversation, their internal monologue, their internal belief system, their lack of accountability. You can see how people treat other people. You can see how people are moving in their lives. Are they hiding things? Are they being 100%? Are they being honest with you? Like all of these things are parts of human nature. And you have to be willing to address your own. You have to be willing to look, and you're going to see some things that you don't like. You're going to come to some revelation about yourself, and you're not proud of it. Like, damn, I'm lazy as heck. Like, I'm a lazy mofo. Like, when I get down to it, I'm just really good at convincing myself that I'm working hard because I put in a 6 hour day at the office, which was really more like 3.5 because the rest of the time I was scrolling, I was going to the bathroom, I was having side conversations, I was daydreaming, I was doing everything else but the work that I was there to do. People do it all the time. So you have to be willing to now, once you've recognized, so the first part is recognition, first part is acknowledgement. You cannot change what you don't acknowledge. So the first part is let me acknowledge what I have subjected myself to. I've got some poor habit patterns. I spent a lot of time, growing up watching TV. I spent a lot of time growing up living vicariously through fictional care. People live vicariously through fictional characters on television, in movies. They literally are looking at a work of fiction and they're trying to ascribe it to their life. Now, here's the good thing though. Here's the cool thing. That's not always a bad thing. It's not always a bad thing because every now and then within the realm of entertainment, in the realm of media, listen, I'll concede. I would be hypocritical. I used to be a part of that industry. I was the person that was a part of the machinery and making movies and making television shows and being on stage and doing theater and I was bringing fictional characters to life. So I'm not going to just say it's all trash. That's not true. That would not be fair. If you come to me and say, hey, Ed, man, I saw the movie Rocky and that character just resonated with me because he never quit. He was not going to give up. He kept getting knocked down, but he kept getting back up. And because he didn't quit, it helped other areas of his life. He found the love of his life because of it. And then even though he didn't win the first time, he kept coming back and he eventually won. And I identify with that character. And that's how I want to be. I want to be the person that never quits. I want to be the person that gets back up no matter how many times they get knocked down. I want to be the person that is a good friend and a good husband or a good wife. I want to be that person. That's totally cool. Sometimes it's effective. Sometimes there's a use for it. But please understand that's an outlier. It's an outlier. How do you know that something is an outlier? Because everybody that's listening to me right now, or if you're watching the recording of this, you know Rocky. You've heard of it. You may never have even seen it, but you've heard the word. Like it's a story. You may have never seen it, but you know it. And the reason you know it, even though this movie was made 50 years ago, this movie was made over almost 50 years. It still resonates today because it's an anomaly. Because most of the things that are put out into the manosphere of consumption is trash. It's simply put out there to keep you asleep. When is the last time you turned on anything and the first thing that you saw that popped up was a powerful woman, a powerful man telling their story of overcoming, telling their story of dealing with incredible difficulties and building a successful business? When is the last time you turned on whatever, your phone, your TV, your screen TV, your laptop, you turned it on and you were in the entertainment consumption manosphere, and what popped up was somebody telling their story. That's probably never happened. Maybe it's happened a couple times because it's in your algorithm because of what you watch, but that's not normally what's going to pop up. Is that true or true? Right? So we know that the purpose is to again keep your attention. Attention is the biggest commodity right now. It's the biggest currency is attention. Your attention. Where your attention goes, energy flows. Where your attention goes, money flows. That's why so many of these companies, they put so many hundreds of millions of dollars in not only grabbing your attention but keeping it, because that's where all the money is. So they don't care what the device is. They don't care what the apparatus is, the story, right? Algorithms are based on emotion. So if you, and I've done a little bit of research on this, and maybe you have too. Here's what we've learned. It was actually the 2016 election. So Facebook really started to hit 2009, 2010 is when everybody was like getting on it. 2009, 2010. But no, let me go back. 2008, 9, 10, somewhere around there. So it starts to hit. And if you remember, okay, if you remember when you first got on Facebook, I want you to think about this. At that time, it was cool because you were like seeing people that you hadn't seen since like elementary school, junior high, high school. Like, wow, oh wow, look at this. Somebody requested me. I haven't seen that person in 20 years or 10 years or whatever. And so you're having fun reconnecting with people. And then you're like, oh, where are you in the world? And what are you doing now? And then they would have some pictures and you're like, oh, that's really cool. There was like a feel good energy to the platform when you first got on. Do you remember this? And there was so much like positive engagement. Fast forward a few years later, 2016. It's the first time that it made a dramatic shift, because what happened was within that space, there were bad actors. There was Russian interference, and that's not new, by the way. Like we've always been messing with each other's input to try to dictate how people behave. But what happened was they discovered that you could actually influence an election, and it was the presidential election of Barack Obama. That's when people started to understand the power of, like, the true power of grassroots, and then social media. Barack Obama was really the first president that highlighted how social media can really be effective, but it was not. That was by accident. It was really like an innocent, byproduct of all these grassroots people working on his campaign. So by the time he was reelected in 2012, they were like, "Oh snap! Like we need to start like paying attention." So then the bad actors were like, "Wait a minute! If we get involved in social media and it doesn't matter what you put out if it's true or not. It only matters if you can get a response." And so by 2016, you saw a shift in the social media landscape. You saw a shift in Facebook and Instagram. You saw a shift because people started doing things and saying things and getting in all of these heated debates politically and playing on the emotion. And listen, when I was growing up, I heard this, and maybe you've heard it. You don't talk about your money, you don't talk about your religion, you don't talk about your politics. Like that was just kind of thrown around. Like those are three things you don't talk about on your first date. You don't talk about it on your second date. Just leave it alone. Don't talk about your money, your religion, your politics. So all of a sudden, in the social media landscape, the programmers, the purveyors, the owners of the platform figured out, man, if we get people talking about religion and politics and money, the attention that we're going to get, the emotional engagement is going to be through the roof. Our numbers are going to go through the roof, which means we can charge more to our advertisers, which means we can make more money. So follow the money. Now, if you understand all of this and you understand like the history of it, where the shift came. So now we've got 10 years of dynamic manipulation, dynamic algorithm and mind control devices and strategies, and all of this intricacies in order to keep you and I's attention on whatever they want us to be attentive to, because it's based on emotional hot buttons That's based on those things that are very personal to us. And I don't know if you all have figured this out yet. Social media, the internet is not a place for nuance. It's not a place to have a nuanced conversation. It's not a place to talk about things that are very meaningful to you because it's impossible. You can't do it. Nobody has enough of an attention span to get away with it. So when you know this, ladies and gentlemen, you understand the context of it. Now you're going to be much more careful about how you're spending your time. Now you have a level of awareness because you went through that first step, which is the acknowledgement. I'm going to acknowledge my habit patterns. I'm going to acknowledge and recognize some of the behaviors that I've been engaging in that are not serving me, that keep me off course instead of on course. And once I recognize and acknowledge it, now I can do something to change it. What am I going to change it to? How do I change the behavior? The first thing is you identify it, make a list. Okay, I'm guilty of scrolling. I'm guilty of watching prank videos. That's my personal one. I'm guilty of watching too much Netflix and chill. I'm guilty of emotional eating. I'm guilty of not going to the gym when I know I should. I'm guilty of making excuses. I'm guilty of setting myself up and talking down to myself for failure. So you have that list, and then what's the opposite? Okay, so whenever I have the temptation to pick up a phone and scroll, I'm going to pick up a book instead. And I'm going to open it up and I'm just going to read. Every time I have the temptation to scroll, I'm going to pick up a book. So I make sure that my phone is next to my book and my book is next to my phone at all times. And then boom, I just get into it and I start reading. So that's one thing, right? If you're guilty of emotional eating, well, then eat some walnuts and almonds, okay? I don't mind if you're emotional eating on walnuts and almonds. Go get you a salad. I don't mind if you want to emotionally eat on the salad. So, excuse me, you can eat. I'm not saying, right? You can eat, put things that if you want to, if this makes you feel good, putting something to eat, just put something healthy in, no problem. And eventually you'll start to make better choices. So it's just writing those things down and then making the adjustment. If you're going to do Netflix and chill, then watch a documentary on something that's inspiring. I love the CrossFit. They have CrossFit on Amazon Prime, where they take you inside of the competitors and their daily their routines and their mindset. I get a lot of value from that. So I'm not saying that you can't do Netflix and chill, but watch something that's going to lift you up, that you're going to learn from. I watch Quarterback on Netflix. It's a great documentary series, and it talks about what it takes to perform at a high level, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, diet wise, all that stuff. And see, as a business owner, all that stuff is relevant to me, that I have direct connection to that. So you can make adjustments, all right? But it's not until you acknowledge it, but now you can make the replacement behavior. So you draw a line from being easily distracted or Netflix and chill, and you say, okay, I'm going to watch a documentary. I'm going to emotionally eat, but I'm going to have walnuts and almonds and a salad and, whatever. So if I'm going to vape, if I need to vape or drink alcohol or smoke weed, instead of that, I will give myself a cheat day. And on that one day out of the week, I can go get a piece of, a cookie or a piece of cake or whatever. So you can make adjustments. But that's up to you. You have to be willing to do that. And this is why the accountability mirror is so powerful, because it allows us to have that rigorous, honest conversation and then focus on being a much better version of ourselves. And I cannot stress this enough. Understand that your mind is designed to trip you up. It's designed to keep you stuck. It's designed to allow you to continuously engage in the same habit patterns that have gotten you the crappy results that you continue to get. That's the whole game. That's the whole ball game of your mind. So some of you, we've been having conversation for weeks, even months, and you really haven't changed anything in your behavior. Like if I were to sit you down and say, okay, let's go through the total number of phone calls you made in the last 30 days. And then let's look at it the 30 days before that and the 30 days before that. And for some of you, it's not going to be that big of a difference. And yet, and still, you say up here, you say you want freedom. You say you want financial peace of mind. You say you don't want to live under the tyranny of a mortgage. You know what mortgage, right? Like more, it's a derivative of the word death, meaning you're supposed to be enslaved to the bank who owns your home. You don't own your home, by the way, the bank does. You're supposed to be enslaved to your mortgage until you die. So you say you want freedom from that. You say you don't want to have a car payment. You say all these things. Oh, I want my kids to, have options. I want their college fund to be paid for. I want. Want shows up in conversation. Expectation shows up in your behavior. Want shows up in your conversation. Expectation shows up in your behavior. So everybody can talk a good game. And so the reason we can go back 30 days, 60 days, 90 days and be like, you haven't really changed that much. You've been talking, your lips are moving, but your feet ain't moving. Your lips are moving, but you ain't picking up the phone and calling people. Your lips are moving, but you ain't setting appointments. Your lips are moving, but you're not making any sales. Your lips are moving, you ain't growing your business. Your lips are moving, but there's no accountability to the growth of your business. So what have you been doing? You have been living in your comfort zone. And the reason it's not a big deal, right? Because you haven't made it a big deal. The reason the numbers haven't changed that much is because you have a steady paycheck. Paychecks are dream killers. If you have a job, the job is designed to kill your dream. If you're getting a paycheck from a job, it's designed to kill your dream. That's why you ain't making much progress. That's why your business ain't growing that big, because you got a paycheck. And that's a accountability mirror conversation that must be had. Because until you get honest with yourself, nothing's going to change. And the reason so much time can pass and you're not getting any results is because you're comfortable being broke. You're comfortable being broke. You're comfortable downsizing your life. You're comfortable cutting corners. You're comfortable being lazy. You're comfortable making excuses. The difference between someone who's winning and someone who's not is how they think. It's their mindset. That's all. Little tweaks and adjustments. You can make them, but change is a door that can only be opened from the inside, right? I can't do that for you. You got to do it for yourself. So once you've done those two steps, you acknowledge, you recognize your habit patterns, and then you create an opposite behavior that you can do. It's all doable. You can do it. And then you have to implement. That's the third part. It's implementation and execution. Implement and execute. It's only three things you got to do, you all. That's it. That's it. Acknowledge and recognize. Create an opposite behavior pattern that gets you to your goal, moves you closer to your outcome. And then the third step is implementation and execution. The implementation and execution is the hardest thing to do. Even though it's a simple thing, it's very difficult because it's going to go against everything in your body that you've been doing for most of your life. Right? That's the name of the game. Somebody said to me, this was years ago, he was like, excuse me, what do you want? I was like, I want to do this. I want that. I was, I'm big, grandiose. I was very excited. Didn't really know how, but I was like, that's what I want. He's like, well, there's only two reasons that you don't have what you say you want. Either you don't want it bad enough or you haven't become the person that deserves it. Either you don't want it bad enough or you haven't become the person that deserves it. Becoming the person that deserves it is one of the most, it's one of the most difficult patterns. It's one of the most difficult roads to walk. I promise you. I promise you that becoming the person that deserves the things that you say that you want, it's one of the hardest things that you're ever going to do in your life. I promise. It's also one of the most freeing. It's one of the most rewarding. I cannot put a price tag on it. There's no way for me to communicate it to you adequately with words. I can tell you that becoming the person that deserves it is transformational, it's elevational, it's inspirational. It is so many things because you finally start living up to your capacity. you finally start discovering the undiscovered stuff that you've been sitting on for all these years. And we've all fallen prey to it. There are behavior patterns that I was subject to in my own journey, and I didn't take the time to recognize some of the parts of my own journey that I'd fallen victim to. My mentor, Mr. Les Brown, he told me one time, you may be done with your past, but your past is not done with you. And when he said it, I felt it, but I didn't fully understand it. And it wasn't until years later that I recognized my past. I thought I was done with my past, but I was still a victim to it. I thought I was done with my past, but I still had not emotionally dealt with it. I thought I was done with my past, and I was still engaging in self-sabotaging behaviors because I hadn't taken a good look in the accountability mirror. And one of the problems in this thing called life is that we have so many opportunities to mask our inadequacies. We can mask the things that we're not dealing with. You're a good mom. You're so good with your kids. I love when I see you with your kids. And people tell you that, and it makes you feel good, and you have a sense of pride because you know you love your kids and you know you're there for them. And all of that noise allows you to be distracted from the fact that you have not gotten after your dream. You have not taken responsibility for changing your own life because you get some compliments on your mothering. You're really good at your job. I mean, everybody here loves you. You're so we love you. You're just so awesome. And you get those words of affirmation, and you see people and you get familiar with them, and there's comfort in the familiarity. And you get to know the workplace that you go to more often. You're more in your workplace than you are at home. And it becomes a place of refuge, even though you're overworked and underpaid and undervalued. Because you allow the noise of you being good at your job and people liking you. You allow all that noise to cover up the fact that you're a freaking slave. And you'll never be financially free, ever, in that situation. And you're playing yourself. Every time you punch the clock, it should say you're playing yourself. You ain't paying yourself, you're playing yourself. But the noise allows us to mask over the inadequacies that we don't take ownership of. I have fallen into that trap because people say things and they say nice things and they give me compliments and they give me praise, and it allows me to use that noise as cover for not dealing with my stuff. I thought I was through with my past, but my past was not through with me. And becoming the person that deserves the life that you really want is one of the most painful and beautiful experiences that you'll ever have in your life. It's something that you can pass on, not just to your kids, but to your kids' kids. And if you truly incorporate that, and it's through the implementation and the execution of these little simple changes, and you do it every day, that's where the growth takes place. That's when you can start to unlock the door and open up new doors of opportunity, new experiences, new levels of income, and that will get you the freedom. That's what frees you up. It's all there. You just have to be willing to go through the fiery furnace to get there. So that accountability is very, very important because each day we have we have our call. We get on the call, and every morning, 5 days a week, we share what our numbers were. And so the numbers tell us everything that we need to know. The numbers tell us how much we allowed life to get in the way the day before. The numbers tell us, how serious we were, the day before. The numbers tell us, are we still kind of playing around, or are we stepping up? Numbers tell us everything. And if we get comfortable with the numbers, then again, you're in trouble. Like if you get comfortable with the numbers, if you're not nervous before that phone call, then you're not it's not you're not serious yet. Like if you don't have a little bit of anxiety before that call where we have to share our numbers, if there's not a little bit of anxiety because of what the numbers are, then you haven't made the full commitment yet. You think you have. You think you have, but you really haven't. What am I doing right now? I'm having an accountability conversation. I'm just letting you all in on it. Like you guys are listening in on my own accountability conversation. And so when you understand the power of your past, and once you really get that, and you understand the disposition that most human beings have, which is to take negativity from our past and then relive it over and over again, it's torturous. Like it's a prison. It's the worst. Like I'm telling you all, I've had situations where I cannot, like, I'm trying to escape my past and it just keeps creeping in. It keeps creeping in. And I'm trying to cleanse myself up, but it keeps creeping in. And I have to do everything. It takes everything in me not to completely destroy myself, to beat myself up because of my past, because of things that I'm not proud of, things that I've done that I'm not proud of, mistakes that I've made, people that I've hurt. Like it stays because it's a permanent mark on the soul. And so when you understand that, when you start to engage in that repetition, that negative thing, and you keep playing it back over, you can pattern interrupt. Pattern interrupt. So in that moment, you could just stop marinating in your misery and do something. Pick up a book and read a page, just one page. Pick up a book and read a page. Pick up the phone and make a call. Tell somebody you love them. Tell somebody you're proud of them. Send a text message. I just want you to know I'm rooting for you. I believe in you and I'm here for you. I just want you to know that. We don't talk as often as we did. Just want you to know that. You're always in my heart, even though we don't talk. When you find yourself falling down that hole, that rabbit hole of negativity, pattern interrupt. So that's the first thing, is understanding how to interrupt that pattern, because that's just human nature. We tend to replay the negative and relive the negative, which means the negative past is overriding the positive future. That's why we can't get to the future, because we're stuck in our past. So the only way you break that is habit patterns, right? You got to have a pattern interrupt. Now, the patterns are so important. Why? Because there's something happening scientifically, biologically, and physiologically. There's a book called The Biology of Belief. In the biology of belief, it talks about what happens to you on a physiological level based on how you talk to yourself and what those habit patterns are and the repetition. So, for example, some of you have heard about this experiment, and you can Google it. If you just Google the effect of words on water, okay? The effect of words on water. They had someone speak negatively to water, like just little water molecules. Then they had somebody over here and they were speaking affirmative, positive words. And then they took pictures of under a microscope of the water. These are water molecules. The water molecules that were under the energy of negative, toxic thoughts and words, it was all like jagged. It was really jagged. It looked like snowflakes, but jagged. The water molecules under the energy of positive, affirming words, it was very smooth. It's very, very smooth. And so there's scientific evidence of the impact of words. Words create worlds. Now, when you understand that there is a physiological impact and biological impact, what's happening in the brain, there's this thing called it's a synapse, and it forms a groove in the brain. So when you say something, when you think something over and over again, when you engage in a certain behavior over and over again, it creates a literal pattern in the brain. It creates a groove in the brain, and so as they connect, because it goes like this. Once they connect, it creates a groove. It's a permanent groove. Okay. So when you have a new thought, when you say, I'm worth more, I deserve better, I'm going to go out and live my dream, it's completely foreign to what you've already created by a habit pattern in your brain. So you're creating a new habit pattern, and it's literally creating a groove in your brain, but it takes time. It doesn't happen the first time. It doesn't happen the second time. We are, remember I had you all write this down last week. You are what you repeatedly do. So if you are what you repeatedly do, you have to create a new synapse in your brain so that it creates a new pattern, a new groove, so that becomes habitual. It's a new habit pattern. And that's why it is so difficult to do. It's difficult. The implementation and the execution is hard because you're not going to feel like doing it 99% of the time. You're not going to feel like doing it because it's not familiar and it's not comfortable. And most of you have built your life around comfort and familiarity. It doesn't matter if it's good for you or not. It's just comfortable and familiar. And that's why you are where you are. That's why you have the results that you have or lack thereof. Because you've built your life around a habit pattern of comfort and familiarity that doesn't get you the results that you say that you want, that will never get you to the freedom that you say that you aspire to. So what is the ultimate driver? So remember, we got the three categories. You have to recognize and acknowledge. Category 2 is what's the opposite and empowering habit pattern that I have to counteract these patterns that I know that are not good for me. So I got this opposite habit pattern, and then I have to implement and execute. And in that third category, I already understand it's going to be the hardest thing that I do because it's completely foreign to how I've been living my life up to this point. Because if you say you want more for your life, if you say you want a bigger life, you want greater financial success, you want to pay off your mortgage and pay off your car loan, you want zero debt, you want to have your educational funds fully funded for your kids or grandkids or your nieces and nephews or whoever. You want to make sure that you have a retirement account that can keep you in the lifestyle where you don't have to make choices based on time or money. You want to make sure that you can write checks and give to whoever you want to give, whenever you want to give it, and not think twice about it. You want to have supreme health and fitness. You want to be energetic. You want to be just as vibrant when you're 50 or when you're 70 or when you're 90 as you were when you were 20. If you know all these things that you want, then it's implementation and execution, because if you really wanted all those things, you have them now. And the reason you don't have them now is because you didn't want it bad enough, or you haven't become the person that deserves it. So in the implementation and execution, it's like, okay, how bad do I want it? Let me go back to the accountability mirror, make sure how bad do I really want it? And then let me ask myself, am I willing to become the person that deserves it? Like, am I just talking when I talk about my kids wanting them to have a great life, or am I just talking? Is it really a driver for me because I want to make sure I can take care of my parents? Is it really a driver for me because I just sick and tired of stressing about money? Or have I gotten comfortable with stressing about money? You want to understand how powerful and destructive comfort is. Remember, your comfort zone is your broke zone. You want to see how powerful comfort is? Go to any housing project in your city and just drive through it. Drive through it. Matter of fact, get out of the car and walk through a housing project. You want to see how destructive comfort is? You will see people who are comfortably living on WIC and food stamps and substandard housing with rats and roaches, holes in the ceiling, dirty ass buildings, pissy smelling hallways, and they got a freaking satellite dish on the side so they can watch television. That's how destructive comfort is. And if it can happen to them, just because you don't live in an inner city housing project doesn't mean that you're not living in an inner city housing project. It's just, it's dressed up a little bit nicer. You got a little bit nicer job. You got a little bit of a nicer home. You don't have rats and roaches, but you still broke. You still living check to check. You still can't make decisions without thinking about the money first. You're just as imprisoned as they are. You ain't no better, you ain't no worse. We all in the same boat. But on the other side of it, there's a whole world that's available to you. There's a whole new life that's available to you if you're willing to work for it. If it's a non-negotiable. And see, some of you have started talking about your dreams and your goals. Some of you have gotten bold and you've put some proclamations out there. You might even have some things up on your walls. You might even have some vision boards and some dreams and goals on your refrigerator and on the bathroom mirror and on your car dashboard. You might have let some other people in on your aspiration, and you still ain't doing the numbers though. And so people are looking at you, your family members are looking at you, your kids are looking at you, your friends are looking at you like you've been talking for a while. I ain't seeing a whole lot of fruit. I hear your lips moving, but your feet ain't moving. So are you just playing around? Like, are you just full of it? Or maybe what you're saying doesn't really work. Either way, I ain't buying it. And you wonder why people are not buying into you. In order to lead, you have to give people something to follow. And if you're not giving them something to follow, why would they want to be led by you? But if you come and you say, man, I'm so excited. I got a vision. And here's what I did the last week. I was making this many calls every day. I set this many appointments. I got this many people in my funnel. I haven't brought on my first person yet. It might be you, I don't know, but I'm glad that you're here with me now and I can show you because I want you to understand I'm committed. I know exactly where I'm going. I may not know all of the hows of how I'm going to get there, but it will not be for lack of trying. And I just want you to know I'm serious because all you got to do is look at my numbers. I didn't say anything about how much money I made. I didn't say anything about how much money I'm going to make. I said, look at my numbers. Hey, Stacy, I want you to come work out with me. I've been working out the last 3 weeks. I go to the gym 5, sometimes 6 days a week. I'm there for at least 60 minutes, sometimes 75 to 90 minutes. And here's my workout regimen I've been doing the last 3 weeks. So I want you to know that I'm in it to win it. I'm committed. I'm serious. And here's my outcome. I don't know how long it's going to take me to get there, but I'm all about it. Would you like to join me? I just gave her something to follow. I just demonstrated by how I show up every single day for my dream. I'm not at my dream. I don't have it yet, but I've demonstrated my commitment because of my implementation and my execution. All the power is in your hands. It's right here. All the power is in your hands. You just got to get to work. Man, can you imagine? Can you imagine what's going to happen in your life and in your business because you're giving people something to follow? I'm just letting you all know. It's not theory. I'm giving you straight facts. I had one of the worst stretches in my own personal business over the last several weeks, just in terms of my own personal productivity. But because I stayed consistent and I haven't negotiated with my vision, I attracted someone who had as much drive coming out of their decision gate. Because there's always 2 dates, okay? There's always 2 dates. There's the date that somebody joins with you, and then there's the date that they get started. And they're rarely the same day. But I had someone that came in, and then when they had their start day, not their join day, but their start day. But because of what I had decided for myself, I attracted someone who made their own decision. And when they made their decision, they did so much work and they had so much productivity that my business still grew, even though I had a horrible stretch. Why am I telling you this? Because I can't always be Superman. I'm not always going to be hitting home runs. I'm not always going to be on a recruiting frenzy. It's not going to happen. Life don't work that way. But it gives me an opportunity to look in the mirror and say, man, my numbers suck. I got to step up my game. But I had some backup because I attracted someone who wants their dream too. And that's the power of teamwork making the dream work. That's the power of leverage. That's the power of going beyond the power of one. Most of you, when I talk about jobs where you're overworked and underpaid, when I talk about situations where you're comfortable, when I talk about situations when you're surrounded by mediocre masses, when I talk about paychecks are dream killers, I'm talking about the fact that you have a permanent ceiling on what you can earn, and it's all dependent upon you. And if you don't show up and punch the clock, you don't make no money. If you're gone for 2, 3, 4, 6 months, you ain't making no money. You will not get paid. What we do in our business is we leverage. I'd rather have 1% of the efforts of 100 people than 100% of my own. And when you're doing business intelligently, when you're earning your money intelligently, you do it so that it's not just totally dependent upon you. You still got to hold yourself accountable. You still got to show up every day, put in the work, but some days you're going to be off. But just because you're off, somebody else might be on. And the more people that you introduce to your business, the more likely you are to have fewer off days. Because the more people that come on board, if I'm off, when this person's off, well, maybe these 3 people are on. And that's the magic. That's where the magic happens. So understand, ladies and gentlemen, leverage has to be a part of the equation. That's non-negotiable. Understand that you have to go through those 3 steps that we talked about so that you can figure out what you need to correct, the behavior patterns, the habit patterns that don't serve you, replace them with the ones that do, and you act on those until you get what you came for. And getting what you came for has to be non-negotiable. It's got to be non-negotiable. I want to talk about this. We're going to get into some bonus session real quick. I want to talk about, this is our book of the month.